Hello, my friends. Today we'll start with the fact that Zelensky is supposed to be shown a new peace proposal for Ukraine as early as today, a plan developed jointly by the US and Russia. The proposal is reportedly going to be present during a meeting in Kyiv with American military officials, U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll and Chief of Staff General Randy George. After talks with Zelensky, the delegation is expected to head to Moscow. And the first details of the agreement that will be shown to Zelensky are already emerging. New. I can confirm a hasty US-Russia proposal being pushed to the Ukrainians through Dmitriev, Vitkov to Umerov. It would amount to Ukraine's capitulation, with people familiar telling me it's essentially the Kremlin's maximalist demands. It includes cutting Ukraine's army in half, giving up certain weapons, giving up Donbas. Zelensky displeased. As for Zelensky, most likely this refers to the resignation of the president. It's also known that there will be additional demands. Two more points from the US Russia plan to end the war and granting the Russian language official status in Ukraine and restoring the official status of the UOC MP. Financial Times reports, citing sources. The outlet notes that this plan is clearly advantageous for Putin. And the first reports have already appeared, stating that Ukraine will not agree to the Kremlin's demands. Ukraine rejects the capitulation plan proposed by the US and Russia. According to the FT, Ukrainian officials said the document repeats the Kremlin's maximalist demands and is unacceptable in its current form. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff cancelled a meeting with Zelensky in Turkey after realizing that the Ukrainian president didn't want to discuss the American peace plan, Axios reports. According to the outlet's sources, Zelensky arrived with his own proposal, coordinated with Europe, and insisted on negotiations in a broader format. Trump supported Witkoff's decision to cancel the meeting because he saw no prospects for progress. Now we'll wait. The ball is in Zelensky's court, an unnamed US official said. He also noted that Zelensky may come to Washington to discuss the new US plan if he wishes. Journalist Christopher Miller confirmed that the document was passed to Kyiv through Vitkov and RDIF head Kirill Dmitriev. According to him, Zelensky was dissatisfied with the proposal. The new White House peace plan turned out to be similar to the notorious Istanbul Memorandum from the Kremlin, which essentially amounts to de facto capitulation. And after all these statements, Peskov announced that Russia is open to negotiations.
Erdogan said he hopes to revive the Istanbul process in Moscow, if Moscow is open to continuing it.
Moscow is open to negotiations. The pause that occurred happened because the Kiev regime was unwilling to continue this dialogue. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, Trump continues to claim that he is unhappy with Putin.
8 raging conflicts, 8 wars. I've settled 8 wars. I have one to go. You know what that one is. I thought that was going to be my easy one because I have a good relationship with President Putin, but I'm a little disappointed in President Putin right now. He knows that. I thought that was going to be the easy one. I settled one war, 36 years.
In the meantime, Budanov said that the war could end in early 2026.
In one of your interviews, you said that for the Russian-Ukrainian war to end, a whole set of factors has to come together, a peace agreement, and many conditions in Russia, Ukraine, Europe, and the United States. Are we close to that convergence now, or have we moved further away?
We will start moving toward it in the winter. Let me put it this way. Our window will open again in early February. All key events will begin in early to mid-February.
Friends, what do you think about the growing push for negotiations? Share your thoughts in the comments. But it's important to emphasize that time is currently working in Russia's favor because the front line continues to shift toward them every single day. And if we look at the approximate statistics, the speed of the Russian advance has significantly increased. If earlier they were gaining about 9 square kilometers per day, now it's already 21 square kilometers per day, roughly 150 square kilometers per week, which is a very serious loss. And we're no longer losing only the Donetsk region, the one Putin has been desperate to seize. We are now even losing territory in the Dnipropetrovsk region. According to analysts' estimates, Russia captured 2,800 square kilometers in 2024 alone. In 2024, Russia captured territory equal to 3 times the area of Kyiv. And the year was mixed. Ukraine had success in the Kursk offensive, but Russia managed to occupy 2,800 square kilometers. A map shows the change to the front line. As we can see, in 2025, the Russians have begun advancing much faster and are capturing even more territory. There are no complete statistics for 2025 yet, so we're waiting. But the situation continues to deteriorate, and the final numbers will definitely be higher. Today, so the front again brought changes that are not in our favor. Let's move straight to the Pokrovsk direction. Here, Russian forces continue advancing and are securing new territory day by day. If you look at the geolocation map, Ukrainian soldiers have released another new video confirming the presence of Russian troops in yet another part of the private residential area. Because of this, the distance from the outermost frontline positions is now only about 1 kilometer and 800 meters. And with today's level of drone activity, crossing this distance is practically impossible. So the situation here is catastrophic, and at the same time, the Russians continue storming the village of Rivne and are pushing forward in the Myrnohrad area, attempting to link two sections of the front. For now, there is still no confirmed information about a Ukrainian withdrawal from Lysivka and Suchy Yar, although it seems likely this is simply due to delays in updating the map, so we are still waiting for clarity. Additionally, Ukrainian soldiers have released footage showing Russian troops being destroyed near Hryshine. This once again demonstrates that the Russians are trying to advance from every direction despite suffering consistent losses. Regarding the Dobropillia direction, Russian forces are storming Nove Shahove, and Sofiyivka, and more reports are emerging about Russian gains in the Volodymyrivka area. There is a real possibility that the situation here is also worsening, but for now we are waiting for confirmation. So Ukrainian fighters have also shown how they are destroying Russian troops in the village of Dorozhny. However, Russian forces continue to achieve some tactical gains in this area and are attempting to move toward Bilitsk. A Ukrainian soldier additionally commented that the situation on the Dobropillia axis is more complicated than official statements suggest. Russian troops have heavily infiltrated Shahove, hiding in basements and accumulating forces while avoiding active assaults for now. The only encouraging point is that the Russians are still unable to advance or destabilize the situation on the local defensive line. Throughout the fall campaign of 2025, this direction was a primary focus for the Russians, with assaults involving dozens of armored vehicles, something that hasn't been seen here for quite some time. Many of Russia's plans and objectives were shattered exactly on this axis, despite their earlier confidence. Now let's move on to the Novopavlivka direction. Here, the Russians continue storming Dachne and are breaking through beyond Zeleny High. The situation in Novopavlivka itself is also difficult. The Russians are already present in almost the entire town, and Ukrainian forces keep releasing footage showing Russian troops being destroyed there. However, there are still no positive changes, even though Ukrainian fighters say that they have almost completely cleared Novopavlivka. For now, we are waiting for confirmed updates on the map. Meanwhile, toward the settlement of Pokrovske, Russian troops are storming Sosnivka, pushing beyond Oleksiivka, and advancing in the Novoalexandrivka area. A large number of shell attacks continues, and after the major collapse of the front line, the Russians are fortifying their new positions and preparing to move forward again. There are also reports that during the night, powerful strikes on Pavlograd were recorded once more. In the Huliaipole direction, Russian forces are advancing toward the village of Dobropillia. Attacks are also being recorded near Rivnopillia, and the Russians are crossing the river toward Huliaipole while storming Zeleny High. A large number of shell attacks is also reported here, and Russian troops are already preparing the area for their next assaults. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, the Russians continue storming Primorske and are pushing forward from Kamensk toward Stepnohirsk. Their goal is to reach Zaporizhzhia from the south as closely as possible in order to begin targeting the city and its logistical routes with FPV drones, worsen the situation both inside the city and around it. And if they manage to do this, then from the east, their forces will also move toward a city already being hit by drones. That's why every Russian advance here leads to serious problems in the future. So it's clear that they have a plan and they are sticking to it. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces are breaking through near the Antonivsky Bridge and are shelling the right bank. However, over the past day, they have made no gains and the front line remains unchanged. And now let's move to the Konstantinivka direction. Here, the Russians are assaulting Virolubivka, pushing toward the outskirts of Konstantinivka, and fighting continues near the villages of Klebanbyk and Rusin Yar, while also storming Stepanivka. But over the past day, there have been no new changes. In the Kramatorsk direction, Russian forces are pushing toward the village of Bondarne, but they have made no gains and the situation has remained unchanged over the past day. In the Siversk direction, unfortunately, a significant breakthrough has occurred. It has been confirmed that Russian troops have entered the city and secured at least the outskirts, with reports of them already being spotted in the city center. The Russian advance covered approximately 3 kilometers and 400 meters. This breakthrough is particularly important because This section of the front had resisted Russian advances for over a year due to a strong Ukrainian defensive lines, and capture in Siversk had previously failed. Today, foreign analysts are discussing this event as much as the capture of Pokrovsk. Russian forces have broken through the strongest Ukrainian front line in Donetsk region and entered Siversk, reports military analyst Bild Rybka. Russian troops have already captured the villages of Zvanivka and Ivanodorivka and entered Siversk from the south, now controlling approximately 20% of the city. Thus, another significant setback has occurred. Attacks are intensifying as the Russians see their first successes. They are now assaulting both Siversk and nearby areas, including Yampel, Zvanivka, and pushing beyond Fedorivka. At this point, we are waiting to see how the situation develops, but it's clear that there is little reason to expect good news. Ukrainian forces have previously had to deploy additional reserves to stabilize other sectors, such as Pokrovsk, Novopavlivka, and Huliaipole. And now that the breakthrough has occurred near Siversk, it raises the question, where will enough reserves come from to cover all the gaps? And here is how Ukrainian soldiers describe the situation in Siversk. The situation in this city is getting noticeably worse every day. The Russians are pressing on the southern part of the city and using clever tactics. They move in small groups into yards, set up ambushes, and try to cut off our infantry units from any possibility to maneuver or reach more advantageous positions. The south of the city is practically turning into a labyrinth of cover where the Russians are forcing us into close combat. So previously, reports indicated that Russian forces were avoiding close combat, but now their tactics have clearly changed. A separate problem is the FPV drones connected via fiber optics. The Russians are actively using them in residential areas, methodically taking our out positions and attempting to destroy our forward infrastructure. It looks like a deliberate preparation for a deeper breakthrough. They are clearing paths for themselves and eliminating anything that could hold them back. Our soldiers are responding strongly, targeting Russian cover, trenches, and fortifications. Every position where the Russians are entrenched is being hit. Fighting continues on the southern and eastern flanks. The Russians are trying to destabilize our flanks and push into the urban area. So it's clear that Russian forces are increasingly forcing our positions and breaking through with FPV drones. If the situation were in Ukraine's favor, the Russians wouldn't even be able to approach the city. But the reality is opposite, showing that the Russians likely have an advantage in drone numbers. In the Lyman direction, problems may emerge soon. The Russians are trying to push directly toward Lyman with large troop formations. So far, the Ukrainian forces seem to be repelling them, but it's a bad sign that the Russians are advancing straight toward the city. They are also assaulting Stavky, Drobysheva, and Korovy Yar, and attacks on Alexandrivka have already begun. This is another worrying indicator as the advances are steadily pushing further. Although there are no major changes on the front line, the gray zone is significantly expanding. Meanwhile, in the Borova direction, the Russians are not conducting any new assaults, and the front line has remained unchanged for the past day. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians have made no progress despite continuing attacks inside the city. They are also assaulting Petropavlivka and pushing beyond Peshane. There have been no advances along the front line, and the Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all attacks. In the Velykyi Burluk direction, following the large breakthrough, the Russians are assaulting the village of Kolodezne. As we can see, they are not stopping and continue to move forward. So far, there are no changes on the front line, and the fighting continues. In the Vovchansk area, the situation is also not very good. Most of the city is already under Russian control. The Russians continue the attacks in the city, and the situation remains tense. Attack activity is not decreasing, and there is a possibility that after fully capturing Vovchansk, the Russians will move toward Bily Kolodys. So there is little good news. In the Sumy direction, the Russians are attempting to advance in the areas of Yablunivka and Yunakivka, but they have had no success. There were also attempts to break through the border here, but again, they haven't achieved any success, and the front line remains unchanged. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.